This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be
The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is
The Journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is The Journey.
The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The Journey. The Journey. The Journey. The Journey.
Welcome back to another edition of The Journey. I am your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have another iconic Memphian. This gentleman grew up here in Memphis, went to high school at Melrose High School, went on to Rhodes College, and now is leading one of the largest banking institutions here in the city of Memphis. Today we have Johnny Moore. Johnny Moore Jr. is the regional president of the Midwest Tennessee region of Truist Financial Corporation. I like to say hello. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm great. How about you?
Fantastic. We're going to start this show out with a couple rapid fire questions just to get you warmed up because, you know, once you get you going, I know you're going to keep it going. So first, who's that person that had the most impact in your life?
Well, I would say my parents.
Okay. Why?
I mean, they've instilled with me most of the fundamentals that I use today and have been a basis for my whole life and my career.
When did you know you could make it? When did you know for sure that you could be a success?
Well, I don't know if you ever know you can make it, but every day you just work to get better.
Okay. All right. When was the time that you made a decision that you ultimately realized was a life-changing decision?
Probably in 1992, I was working at Ernst & Young, and I decided to leave public accounting and go to work for NBC Bank.
All right. Tell us an early idol of yours.
I mean, I think as young black kids, you see athletes, but very early, and pretty much in every house at my age growing up, you had a picture of Martin Luther King in your house. I mean, it was in your dining room. I mean, that was a dining room fixture.
Yeah, it was like the three of them: Martin Luther King, John Kennedy, and Jesus, man.
Yeah, that was one of the fixtures.
Isn't that the truth? All right, now I'm gonna ask you this question: what drives you every day? When you get up in the morning, you're sitting on the side of your bed. What makes you get up and get going?
Man, I think just wanting to be successful and really to make sure every door that I enter, that I leave open for other diverse candidates to walk through.
Okay. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to bring it all the way back. We're going to bring it back to your earliest memory. What is the earliest memory you have of Johnny Moore Jr.?
Man, probably first grade, this hyper kid who was just hyper, wouldn't listen to instructions, just saw something, just started doing it.
So wait a minute, you wasn't a model citizen always?
Oh, no, man, I didn't. Instructions? What are instructions?
Okay. So give us a story. Give us a story of you in the first grade.
I'm going to tell you a story. It was probably the last one of those not understanding or reading instructions. So,
okay.
I mean, I can remember first grade probably was really smart. I was early. I started school early. I was 5. I had a late birthday in September. So, just doing stuff. I mean, wouldn't look at the instructions. I would just say, hey, this is what I think it should be done, and just did it.
Okay.
And, it took a couple of those progress reports from my dad, said, hey, we need to have a little chat. and
with many words?
Yeah, well, his chatting was not what we call chatting today.
Okay.
It was more of a more formal discipline.
Okay.
And I remember from that standpoint that it was a bad day. And from that point on, I really started getting focused on things.
I had some act right. That's what we called it.
Yeah.
So that's maybe not as a positive memory. Give me some of your fondest memories of you growing up.
Man, just a kid. I mean, just the world we live in today is so different than when it was back then. I mean, back when I grew up, the rules of the game was just be home before the lights come on.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, you can roam anywhere. You had freedom to go anywhere, any neighborhood. You weren't worried about somebody messing with you. You just did what you wanted. You just free. And as long as you made it home before the lights came on, everything was good.
So give me a story of you being young and that one day that you just really had your best day ever.
So, I mean, how young? I mean, you talking about young?
Your decision.
No,
Your decision.
I tell you what. I think one of the I reflect back when I was at Melrose, and I was there with a lot of great athletes, and I was kind of an outsider who had went to school there, even though my family had gone there. And playing football, it was just always a struggle, and I was always trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one day it just happened. I mean, we were in practice, and we were in shorts and helmets, so it was like 1/4 speed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just going 1/4 speed, and one of these dudes was a senior. He was just, I don't know if the coach told him to do something, but he just wanted to pick on Johnny Moore that. It was a pick on Johnny Moore that.
Were you one of the bigger kids?
No, I was still trying to grow into my frame.
Okay.
So we were doing this drill, and he got by me, and I was like, man, what are we doing? We're going 3/4 speed, and coach was like, hey, what are you doing, Moore?
Right.
Run the play again.
Uh-huh.
And the next play, this guy, we ran the same play, and he came back with the same level of intensity. So at that point, I was like, I got to do something. So I remember pivoting because he went around me. I was playing offensive tackle. He was playing defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
And I spin around. I guess he didn't think I could catch him. I spin around, and I caught him, and I hit him in his chest and just pancaked him in the gym. We didn't have any pass on.
Right.
And this guy was an older guy. And from that point, my perspective of what I could do, fitting in, it didn't matter about me fitting in more. I knew I could do it.
Okay.
And once I executed on that dude, it was no stopping me. From there, and I became like, I just started taking over.
Wow. Well, listen, we got a couple more questions we're going to come back with after the break. So listen, you're listening to The Journey on the KUDZUKIAN Network. And today we have Johnny Moore, Regional President for Truist Financial Corporation.
The Journey.
Funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
And we're back with The Journey on the KUDZUKIAN Network. And as we promised, as we said earlier, we have another iconic Memphian here with you today, sharing their life story, helping you understand that the road to success sometimes can get a little whiny, a little twisty, all of that. So anyway, we have Johnny B. Moore Jr. He is Regional President of Midwest Tennessee Region for Truist Financial Corporation. Johnny, we were talking about you in high school. If you had a chance to go back and talk to that young man, either before or after he made that big hit, what would you say to that guy?
I would tell that young man that, hey, in life you're going to have a lot of situations, but you always know what's right from wrong. And the basis is just be yourself and just do what you can and work on yourself each day to get better. And, don't try to be somebody else. Don't do things to make people like you. Do the right thing. And that if that doesn't attract the friends you want, I mean, you just got to sometimes learn how to be on your own to appreciate who you are. Because once you respect yourself, then you don't have to worry about other people telling you you're good for you to feel good. And I think that's what a lot of young people get caught up. They need acclamation from other people telling them they're doing some good stuff and feeling good about themselves.
So you're not necessarily counting your likes on Facebook and whatnot?
No, I don't do that. I think in life you got to feel good about yourself, and you try to make yourself the best person you can, because if your vanity, your self-worth is totally based on what other people think about you, you're going to be sadly disappointed because everybody can't handle your blessings.
Wow, that's powerful. Very powerful. You're talking to that kid, and we're thinking about that kid, and you make a critical step from high school, because many of us get left at high school, and you decided to go to college, one of the most prestigious colleges in the city and maybe in this region of the country, Rhodes. How did you make that jump? How did you make that transition?
Well, I'll tell you, that was sort of an accident. I mean, I had become pretty good at football, and I thought I was going to be playing the SEC somewhere, and then I hurt my knee my senior year.
Oh, wow.
And, everybody's like, hey, walk on if you're okay. We'll give you a scholarship. But I was fortunate enough that I had done some other things. Number one, and I couldn't go home without making good grades. And so I had good grades. And I played in the band. I could have done something in the band. And that's what I think all kids need to understand. You can't bet your whole life on one thing.
Okay.
You got to have a plan B. And for me, that plan B was having good grades, which allowed me to go to Rhodes.
Okay. And when did it change at Rhodes? Because obviously at some point you became inspired to go on and be much more successful. And so what I'd like to know that day at Rhodes that had a certain kind of impact on Johnny Moore.
Well, I could tell you, I think, going from Melrose, which was a predominant black school, to going to Rhodes, which was a predominant white school. And being there and taking those business courses and starting to make really good grades and understanding, hey, we had a curve. And understanding I wasn't setting the curve, I was benefiting from the curve because my grade was already hard. And it made me realize that, hey, you're a young inner city kid, but you got the fundamentals to be successful in this world, and you can compete. And you got to learn to compete. It's not just in this world, you're not just going to compete against African Americans. You're going to compete against African Americans. You're going to compete against white people. You're going to compete against Asian people. It's a whole different world.
Right.
And you got to learn how to compete, and that's what that taught me. Rhodes challenged me academically, and being able to compete there helped me gain that self-confidence that I could do things a lot different than my parents. Because my parents were blue-collar workers.
Okay.
One of my mom and dad, one worked at night, the other worked in the daytime, so someone always be home with the kids. It was 5 of us in our family. So, I was the first one to graduate from college.
Okay. Was a lot of pressure placed on you by being that smart kid, growing up, in a blue collar neighborhood? How did you navigate being the smart kid?
Well, yeah. Well, it's a lot different now. Once again, I'm saying sometimes you got to learn how to be alone to appreciate yourself.
Okay.
And so, I always took pride in having good grades. Even though I played football, I was at Melrose, I played in the band. I just thought it was important, to have good grades because, everybody wants a better life. And I didn't know what a better life looked like, but I could tell you, as I advanced in my career, and the more I saw in banking and finance and how people live, the more it encouraged me to work harder to achieve similar goals. And that's the thing I need to tell young people. It's so have goals. With goals, you push yourself to get better. And as you reach those goals, you set new goals. And for a guy like me, they say, well, you should be happy where you are. No, I'm not happy. It's other places I can go. And when you start becoming happy where you are, that's when your game is over for you.
Wow. That's very prophetic. Tell us about your transition to adulthood. You leave Rhodes College. Where'd you go? Did you always stay in Memphis? Has your career always kept you in Memphis, or have you moved away and then come back?
Well, until recently, when I took over Midwest Tennessee region for Truist, SunTrust now Truist, which covers Nashville back to Memphis, Mississippi, and Arkansas, I had always been in Memphis. So now I spend half of my time in Nashville because I'm on the Nashville market as well. So, but yeah, coming out of Rhodes, I've had the great opportunity to work with some great companies, Ernst & Young. Once again, right out of college, I worked as a CPA. I was fortunate enough that I was able to pass the CPA exam, all 4 parts the first time.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you a little story about that. I mean, when I got hired, there was 16 people in my group. And within 2 months of us 16 being hired, we lost 2 significant accounts. And I knew with that somebody was going to get fired.
Right.
And just that inner city intuition, and I knew I had to do something to separate myself from the pack if I wanted to stay, because unfortunately I was the only minority in the group.
Right.
Of the 16, it was just me.
Right.
And, you know, and I was very appreciative of the opportunity, but I wanted to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I studied, and I studied all the time. I mean, I would go to football games, and I would have a stack of note cards, answer a question on front, answer on back. And I would be hanging out with my buddies, and I would be looking at those cards, and they looked at me like I was the biggest nerd they ever seen. But, you know, that's fine. But I was trying to get somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that's in life. When you're trying to get somewhere, you got to be focused on what you're doing. You can't do everything.
Right.
And I tell the young people now, every new thing comes up they want to try, hey, get good at something. And then once you get good at that and start making some money, then you can leverage and get into other things. But being average at a lot of things means nothing.
Unpack that a little bit for us.
I just think you got to be good at something. This world is too competitive. And you got to have your own brand, and your brand's got to represent something, and you got to have a certain skill set that separates you from the pack. But we have too many people want to dibble and dabble. I want to do real estate today. I want to be in banking tomorrow. I want to sell cars this. I'm going to do my own personal thing while I'm trying to work. You might be very smart, but it's not enough time in the day to execute on all those different strategies. Right. You got to get focused on something and build a base. Right. You got to have a base. I mean, it's like building a house. If you don't have a solid foundation of making money, then you can't put another floor on your house.
Right.
You got to have a solid base. And so once you get solid in something, you create some brand, you start making some money, you create some savings, then you can start taking additional risks. We take too much risk with no capital.
Right.
We got no room to recover.
Right.
If it doesn't work, we're done.
Right. Wow. So Memphis, what role has Memphis played in your development as a professional?
I mean, Memphis, that's my home. That's my home. I've been here my whole life. I mean, everybody I know mostly is from Memphis. I mean, I know a lot of new people now because I'm in Nashville some, but I mean, Memphis molded me. Memphis gave me the opportunity. I was in public schools. I learned here in Memphis. I went to Rhodes here. I learned here. And Memphis has been the whole fabric of who Johnny Moore is.
When did you feel like Memphis let you down?
Man, I tell you, you might look at me and I hadn't had many disappointments.
Okay.
I mean, my career has been pretty steady. I mean, I may have had one setback.
Tell us about it. Tell us about the setback. Tell us about the falling down and having to get back up.
Well, I mean, it was young. I mean, I think I was about 28, and I was managing a group at the bank, and it was our home equity lending group. And, I thought I was doing a good job, but, I was probably a little too trusting early on, and I had some people who talked a good game but couldn't get it done.
Right.
But I was relying on them, and we were implementing a system, and I really trusted them, and I should have just really stuck to my guns and been a little more into it. But ultimately, we just had a lot of disruption in that group, and at 28, managing about 40 people, they asked me to go to the commercial side of the bank. And to me, that was kind of a disappointment because now I was managing people. Now I'm just going to be a relationship manager. But to me, I thought that was a kind of a failure, but I didn't realize the bank was setting me up for something else.
Okay.
Because if I hadn't made that move to the commercial side of the bank to really understand how the wholesale of the bank, I could have never been in the position I'm in today.
Fantastic.
And so that's why I tell people sometimes you got to step back or sideways to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not willing to do that and don't have the right attitude when that happens, you kind of limit yourself.
Right. some of the, back in church, they used to say, you know, you get a setback to get set up.
Yeah.
You know, so it's great. Let's talk about a success. Let's talk about that one day when you felt like you could walk on water.
Man, I've had a lot of those. I've been so blessed. I mean, you know, you can look at, you know, when I passed the CPA exam, all 4 parts, only 10% of people do that.
Wow.
In the country.
Okay.
That's one. I mean, being the first African American to be on the commercial side of the bank, that's another one. Then number 2, to be there 2 years and produce at a high level, and then all of a sudden be managing the whole group. Then, you know, to become the president. I mean, you know, the president of a major bank.
Tell us about that day. Tell us about the day that you got the call that you were going to be the new president of the bank.
I mean, it was kind of a day of mixed emotions, because the day I got the job was the most unopportune time in the country, because it was in 2009 during the financial crisis. The worst time to possibly take over a bank.
All right.
And with that, I remember going home and talked to my wife, and I said, hey, good news is I got offered to be the president of the job. Bad news is this is the worst possible time to take this role. And you might as well just say goodbye to me for a little bit, because I'm going to have to put in the grind to make this thing work.
All right. Tell us about your family.
Well, I've been married 28 years to my high school sweetheart, Mary Moore. We have 2 kids. My son, Trey, is 25, and my daughter, Madison, is 20.
Right.
And Madison is a sophomore at the University of Tennessee. Trey graduated from the University of Richmond, played football there, and now he works for the competition at First Horizon.
All right. All right. This is the last question. Young boys and men are going to be listening to this. Speak to them directly. What would you want to leave them with that they can carry with them from Johnny B. Moore Jr.?
It's all about your brand. You are your brand, and people, when they see you, they're going to see your brand. And with your brand, they're going to make a decision in 5 seconds. Can I trust you? Can I work with you? Or would I want you on my team?
Right. And
that's in 3 to 5 seconds of looking at you. So your brand is so important. And you the only one can protect your brand. And the last thing I would say to them, be willing to fire your friends. Because everybody can't go on the journey with you. Everybody can't appreciate your blessings. And, you know, if your friends are putting you in harm's way, they're not your friends.
And with that, we're going to bring this thing to an end. Mr. Johnny Moore Jr., thank you for taking your time to be on the journey. We really appreciate you. And look up this man. Find out more about Johnny Moore, because he is truly one of the icons of the Memphis community. Thank you, Johnny, for your time.
Thank you.
The Journey, hosted by Larry Robinson. Executive producer, the Delta Boulay.